In my mind, networking is the hardest skill you're going to have to master for the job search. It's actually harder than interviewing itself. So why is networking harder than interviewing? Because in interviews, you already know you're looking for a job. They already picked you. You're going to do a question and answer period, and you're going to sell, but you know you're supposed to sell. But in a career fair, while you're supposed to sell, as someone else is saying, you're waiting in line for half an hour to get maybe a minute with somebody. How do you make that kind of impact in 1 minute? And then if you do one-on-one networking with an alumni, for example, you're actually not allowed initially to ask for a job. So how do you ask for a job without asking for a job? And in the middle of all of that, it's very social. So social professionalism, how you talk with them in these contexts, are also incredibly important, right? So there's a big social component to it. And then you're establishing these relationships that may be short-term, but may also last for quite a while. And then so there are a lot of really important skills that you want to develop: listening skills, asking skills, and definitely storytelling skills to be effective in this area. So why is networking so important for international students? I oftentimes say networking is going in through the side door when the front door doesn't work. So when you go to career fairs, even sometimes on campus recruiting, the recruiter themselves will say, "I'm so sorry, but we actually don't hire international students." But in fact, based on looking at maybe students that were hired at B the last few years, they have indeed hired international students. You may go on myvisajobs.com and see that that company has hired H-1B visa students. So why is it that the recruiter will tell you no? Because that's what they're supposed to do at career fairs, is screen people. But if you find someone in the organization, let's say that's an alumni from your school, and you get to sell them and they really like who you are and what you've done, they're impressed by you, they can actually begin to be what I call an internal advocate to try to help people learn about you and sell you inside their own organizations. And I've seen a lot of international students really be successful coming in through the side door when they realize that the company does not have a policy for not hiring non-Americans, okay? If a company has a policy and they just don't hire anyone, there's nothing you can do. But if they've hired for people for H-1B visas in general, then you actually have an opportunity to get there. And I've really seen that work for students that really have used networking quite well. The reason networking works so well in the US relative to other cultures, especially for those of you that are here undergraduate going through 4 years, is that there's a perception, or actually it's a reality in many other countries, that your GPA and your academic transcript will determine whether or not someone will hire you. Well, in the United States, especially because you're not the business school, it may not be, let's say a kind of engineering or sciences, when you get out there, how you present yourself, your professionalism, your ability to tell them that you can solve problems becomes as important as your grades. Because you can have a 4.0 average, but if you go out there and you're talking to them and you can't really present yourself as a leader, companies will say, gosh, that person's really smart, but when left to your own to actually solve problems for the organization, they may not have confidence that you can actually do that. So it's really important to understand why a 4.0 straight A average will not actually get you jobs in the United States context, even coming out of undergraduate and definitely coming out of graduate schools going forward. So why is this? One thing to really keep in mind that I talked about last time is this notion that companies, organizations hire students to solve problems, not to execute tasks. What's the difference? And task is when a manager says, I want you to do exactly this thing. I want you to do this analysis in this way. That's called a task. A problem is we have a general issue with understanding the market, for example, and I want you to figure it out. And you're the one that has to go figure out, am I going to use this particular analysis that uses regression analysis, or am I going to do a KP analysis? What kind of analysis should I be doing that's going to help solve the problem for the organization? And that is really why organizations and companies come to hire students out of a school like yours. So one of the key ways for people to understand what capacity you have is by actually showing a career story. Here's a story that I have about myself that can help you. So this is really important for you to understand for those of you that were not here last time. It is incredibly important for you to have a story about your career, what you want to do, and why you are qualified. Because in the end, people remember stories more than they remember facts that come out of a resume. So they've done a lot of research now that shows that people that tell stories that get people excited and evokes their interest will outwin people that constantly are spewing data out. So your job is not just to talk about, here are the things I did, here are the things I did, here are the things that I did, but actually wrap around a story that has great adjectives. It talks about your passions and emotions and your interests, and that actually is incredibly important when we're actually hiring people for a job in the US context. There's a continuum of reasons why you do networking, right? You don't always do the same thing all the time. So here are the differences. You always start with learning and trying to get some feedback. What does that mean? So for example, in the fall, you have a chance, you meet someone at a career fair, you meet someone who comes on campus, and you say to them, I'd love to learn more about your career and how it developed because I'm interested in coming into this particular area. It's called informational interviews. But in fact, we Americans all know that there are two things that we do with informational interviews. One is to actually understand. I've never done asset management before. What is that all about? What do you do? How do I get in there? What kinds of people are successful in this area? Help me understand the qualities that are important. Am I well positioned given the way that I have studied or my background? Am I well positioned for this kind of job? That's one of the key reasons for informational interviews, and you really should be doing that earlier in your career. So if you're undergraduate, freshman year, maybe too early, but even sophomore year, as you're trying to figure things out, it's a great time to go get information through networking. But we also know that we also use informational interviews to actually go in to impress somebody. So you're actually going into an informational interview to learn, but actually you're selling. And because our American etiquette says when you first meet someone, you cannot say, I'm really interested in working for the asset management firm that you're in. I wanted to know if there's an internship or job that I would be qualified for. Right? As soon as you ask that, Americans will say, wow, I guess you really don't understand American professional etiquette, and will have a very negative view on you. So if there's one thing I hear consistently across all schools is that if international students don't understand the rules, they'll go into a networking situation one-on-one and immediately in the first meeting will say, I'm looking for a job, can you help me find a job? In that moment, even if the person's smiling back at you, they've already crossed you off the list because you don't have the American protocol for what networking is really about. So when we go in and we say, I'm really interested in asset management, I'd like to learn more about how to get into asset management, we're basically winking. You know, we all know we're looking for a job. We just can't use those words the first time you meet them. So there's a lot of code words that we use, basically looking for a job without actually using the words, can you find me a job? Okay, so we'll talk about what that really means. You guys are going to go and say, someone's going to have to start the handshake and the hi thing, okay? You got to follow suit, but you've got to make sure you do the handshake and the smile. If you're Asian, try your best not to, okay, do that if you can. If you're women, I'm serious, stick your chest out, all right? And that way your shoulder will go back. Don't worry about it. Nobody else will see that you're doing that. Okay, but that's just a little trick I have for people. Okay, and then once the handshake happens, usually what the recruiter should say, so why are you interested in this job? Why are you interested in our company? And then I'd like for the student to start your pitch that I just did with the example from, I think Mattia was his name, okay? All right, and then you have only 1 minute. I'm gonna time you because that's about how much time you have to do your pitch. 1 minute comes up, I'm gonna say stop, and then I'm gonna have your partner who's listening give you feedback. Did that person appear confident? Confident is a body language thing. Also, it's a voice thing. If everybody's going and the recruiter that's playing the role is going, what? Okay, that's not confident. That's like you're talking so low I can't hear you. So Americans want, especially the women, talk with a voice where people can hear you. And then approachability is smiling as opposed to, okay, I literally have people at the conference that came, shook my hand, and literally it's as if they had a speech, came in and just went into the speech. And I was like, eye contact, a little hello, how are you kind of thing would be nice, you know? But they were so nervous, I understand, but they went right into their delivery, and you could tell they did the same thing with every single company they went to, okay? And that doesn't work very well. Okay, the other thing is, for those of you that come from hierarchical cultures, What you do here when you're staying with a recruiter or senior vice president that makes you really nervous is to think about them as your friend's friend. Why do I say that? If they're your friend's friend, you will feel socially equal enough to them to actually do this. Smile and mean it, okay? But you're not going to be so informal that makes you feel unprofessional. So you want to be able to do that as well. Okay, and then your story is going to show your passion, interest, and your qualifications. Your partner is going to tell you at the end of the day, especially on confidence, approachability, and clear story, and shows passion, interest. One is really great that you're trying, but you got a lot of work to do, okay? 5 is, wow, you are so ready. Please don't give everyone a 5, okay? Because your job is to be their mirror, be honest about what you're really seeing. That's going to be really, really helpful. Okay, so then I'll say, give feedback. I'll say stop, and then I'll do switch. You guys go through the same thing again, and then you will give the feedback again to the other person. Ready? Okay, now you're at game face. Game face is, I'm ready for game. Please don't do the, yeah. Okay, really pretend like you're on there. You're at a career fair. You want a job. You want to make this happen. It's okay to act. And it's okay to act even outside of your comfort zone and be a little crazy, okay, just to try it out. Okay, ready? I'm going to give you 1 minute. Decide who's going to go first. Set, go. So let me quickly go through in terms of the follow-up. Make sure you do within 48 hours. Write a note that summarizes how good it was to meet them. So usually you write an email that says how good it was to talk, to hear about what they had to say. And then importantly here, I look forward to staying in touch and getting your counsel on my career. So remember that follow-up is critically important as you go forward. Okay, ways to stay connected. This is so important. If you've taken someone's advice, email them. Okay? Someone just emailed me from one of the schools I went to say, oh, I just saw this article on networking, and I thought you might be interested. I thought it was the best thing that she did. It was so great. I emailed and congratulated her for finding a way to stay in touch with me. Okay? So again, if you get advice, make sure you follow up with them when you do follow up. You read really cool cases or articles related to what you talked about. Email them then. Send out holiday cards. New Year's cards is great. All you have to say is, I hope you've been well. Thank you for your help. I look forward to staying in touch, and writing a card. All these things begin to help you then have a way to stay in touch with them, and eventually, at some point, is actually talking about the interview. To be really frank here, what the book here does, inside, if you looked at it, is actually gives you the rules about how do you make contact, how do you send the emails, when do you get back with people, and then how do you actually talk when you're in the conversation. Okay, so let's see. Lastly here, make sure you have a target list. It's like everything. I have an Excel sheet of people that you've been in touch with, when you should talk to them, get it on your calendars. It's going to be like almost a full course that you've got to do, because it does take 3 to 6 months to get it to really where you have a one-on-one. Expect that 8 out of 10 people you contact will not get back to you. So don't feel bad if it does not happen. It tends to be the process. People are busy. Please try your best not to feel like it's rejection. But the people that have done really, really well have been consistently persistent and really, really thick-skinned when they don't get the responses, but they keep going anyway. Remember, they say it's okay to get 99 no's as long as you get 1 yes, right? To get to where you want to go in terms of looking for a job. It's the same kind of theory for this. I'll be in the back of the room or outside. If you have any questions, feel free to do that. My email is judy@dreambridgepartners.com. I love students, so if you have any questions, email me. I'll do my best to get back to you. Lincoln with us.